Good afternoon everybody, and welcome to another video from everybody's favorite YouTuber, Tall Travels. So everybody, in this video I want to talk about some of the misconceptions that people in the West often have about Russia and Russian people. The first topic of conversation I want to talk about is personal safety and violence. Now, a lot of people in the Western world think that if maybe they came to Russia and somebody heard them speaking English in the streets, or some other Western language, then a gang of gopniks would come chasing after them with vodka bottles in their hands and try to kill them. So guys, this is absolute rubbish. I lived in a number of different countries around the world. I lived in Serbia, Ukraine, Australia, Thailand, Indonesia, and I can tell you the safest countries that I've been to, lived in, are Serbia, Ukraine and Russia. So guys, I lived a couple of years in Serbia, maybe a total of 6 years or something like that in Ukraine, and I never had any problem in either country. So Serbian people are big and strong and tough looking, but they're gentle giants. So yeah, if you don't rub them up the wrong way, you're not going to have any problems. And it's a similar story in Ukraine. I spent a lot of time there, and I can't remember any serious scrapes I had. Maybe some strong words if I was in a bar or club and I spoke to the girl of some guy. Yeah guys, some people may disagree, but Ukrainian and Russian people are the same people. So there's some nuances between the both of them in terms of how they act, but generally speaking, for those people, I don't know, in the West, if they come across a Ukrainian or a Russian person, they're not going to know the difference. Now guys, in the early 1990s through to the late 1990s perhaps, is a very different situation in Russia, because it was a time of great upheaval when the Soviet Union collapsed. So yeah, Russia was quite a dangerous place to be. And people didn't know how to make money for themselves, so they're running around in St. Petersburg and Moscow with guns. Now I know what you're thinking, everybody. Tall Travels, you're 2 meters tall, you're 100 kilograms or thereabouts. Of course you're not going to have any problems in Russia. But that's not the case in other countries. Like in my own country, it's probably the most dangerous place I've ever lived. So it's definitely not a safe place, especially in the major cities like London, I don't know, Birmingham, Manchester, places like that. Since I started coming to St. Petersburg, I've mostly spent my time in the very center of the city. So it could be that on the outskirts of St. Petersburg there's some dodgy neighborhoods. Actually, I'm sure there are, but whether I or some other foreigner would actually have any problems in those areas, I don't know. Now, I remember when I was living in Ukraine, whenever I heard of some foreigner getting beaten up or something like that, it was almost always because they were shit-faced drunk, or maybe they went to some dodgy neighborhood looking for drugs or something like that. So, if you're a weak target, if you look like a weak target, then you're going to attract attention. So when you're walking down the street late at night, don't look like a victim, walk with your back straight, and yeah, don't look like a pussy. If you can, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning or something, you've had a few drinks, you think you could be a target, then take a taxi for Christ's sake, because they're cheap in this country, The starting fare for a taxi on Yandex is 100 rubles, for Christ's sake. Now, I also want to talk about homeless people and beggars and people like that. So, there are quite a few beggars in St. Petersburg and homeless people, but if they approach you asking you for money and you say no, then that's it. They're not going to give you any grief or maybe chase after you or something like that, which is a bit different to in the West. As I remember, I haven't properly lived in the UK for many years, but I remember homeless people and drunks on the street being a lot more aggressive. That's another thing. Even kind of like normal people in this country, when they get drunk, they don't want to fight. I don't know what it is about British people, but maybe some of you share the same opinion. When they get drunk, they want to fight for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's sexual frustration or something. So yeah, guys, to finish this topic, don't believe the hype. Generally, Russian people are not going to give you any problems whatsoever. But guys, I just happened to be outside the bar where me and a certain bold celebrity were almost lynched by football hooligans. Oh guys, I just remembered one other thing. There's some people that follow my channel, especially in America, I have to say, and now they think that if they come to this country, they're going to be apprehended by FSB and used as a bargaining chip with the West. I can think of a couple of situations where this has happened. That Griner chick, the basketball player, now she came into Russia with some cannabis or cannabis oil or something, and yeah, she was given a very hefty sentence. Now, we all knew that she was never going to serve as many years as they gave her. She was, yeah, used as a bargaining chip. The only other story I remember was that English teacher in Moscow. Now, as I understand, he came into a Russian airport with drugs in his baggage. So, you know, I don't know how much cannabis. I don't know how much cannabis he had on him, but yeah, stupid of him. And I don't know if he's been used as a bargaining chip, but I understand he got a bit of jail time. So everybody, what you have to remember is Russia is a socially conservative country, so drugs are frowned upon by most people in society here. That doesn't mean they don't have a problem with drugs, of course they do, but yeah, if you're caught with drugs, especially if you're a foreigner, you know, you could get yourself into a nasty situation. It's not like some Arab countries or something like that, the Middle East, where, you know, you could spend the rest of your life in jail, but it's a serious offense, so please don't even think about doing it. No cannabis oil, no cannabis, none of that. Just come to Russia, and if you want to have fun, go to the bar and drink some vodka. Oh, talking of vodka, everybody, I've got a very dry mouth from all this talking. I can't find any little shops around there. There's a coffee shop here, but it's 90 rubles for an Americano. I don't think I can afford it. Okay guys, let's see if they got any booze in here. Okay guys, so the next topic I want to talk about is alcohol. So I've just been into the shop and I bought a little bottle of vodka here for just over £1 So yeah, about £1.10, £1.20 or something like that. Can you imagine in the UK if you could buy little bottles of vodka like this for £1? The whole country would go crazy. So yeah everybody, let's talk about alcohol and alcoholism. Now, a lot of people in the West still have this impression that Russian people are the most alcoholic in the whole world. They drink vodka for breakfast, lunch, dinner. They put vodka in their borscht, on their cornflakes, everything. Now, if you go back to the 1990s, and again, you're probably right. It was a very different place in the 1990s. A lot of people, you know, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, lost their whole way of life. Their jobs in the factory or whatever, and the only thing they could turn to was alcohol. So guys, Russia is still a heavy drinking country, but it's totally changed since the 1990s. Now, to quote a Guardian article for 2019, alcohol consumption between the years of 2003 and 2019 dropped by a whopping 43%. So guys, going by 2016 data, the 4 most heavy drinking countries in the world were number 1, Lithuania, number 2, Germany, number 3, France, and number 4, Russia. So guys, back in the early 1990s, the life expectancy for men was 57 years old. Today, well, in 2019 is 68 years old, so a big improvement. So back in that time, yeah, obviously alcoholism, maybe poor diet, smoking and stress related to these very turbulent times in history. I think this is a part of a bigger trend, because when I was living in Ukraine I could see the differences, especially from about 2012, 13, 14. I could see people started drinking a lot less. Now I think this is a lot to do with social media, and there's a lot of promotion of healthy lifestyles on Instagram and YouTube and whatnot, because at about that time, 2012, 2013, that's when these websites started gaining traction. So yeah, I remember turning up in Lviv in Western Ukraine for the first time in 2010. I could barely find a gym. I had to go to some dodgy Soviet leisure center on the outskirts of town, but then I could see things changing. Yeah, men were drinking less. They started going to the gym more. Now, in Russia, I think what's also responsible is Vladimir Putin, because, yeah, he's known as a very healthy man. I don't believe he drinks at all, or if he does, very little. And, you know, he's a judo champion. He likes riding bears, bare-chested. So, you know, Vladimir Putin is very popular these days in Russia, so a lot of people see him as a role model. So, yeah, I mean, that in that respect is good. So guys, as for myself, I'm not a purist, you know. I'm not a big drinker these days, but, you know, sometimes I like to have a few. And it can be difficult to find somebody to drink with these days. Everybody's gone teetotal, you know, drinking cinnamon lattes and soy cappuccinos or whatever. But let's say about 10 years ago in Ukraine, it was a different story. I was going to bars and nightclubs almost every day. So I did a fair bit of drinking, but yeah, I'm a bit more chilled out these days. Now, I think another thing that's contributed to lower drinking levels in Russia are laws here now that you have where you can't buy alcohol after, I think it's 10 o'clock or maybe 11 o'clock. I think it's 10. So now you can still buy alcohol in the dodgy shops. You know, there's a lot of like local shops around here, and they're often owned by people from the Stan countries and the Caucasus, and you can buy anything in there. So yeah, any time of day or night you can still buy alcohol in these shops, but you pay quite a lot more. I mean, I figured out is about 1/3 more compared to buying in the supermarket. So yeah, these guys are doing well out of this drinking law, and if they ever got rid of this law, I think they'd be rioting on the streets by these guys that own these shops. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention, guys. It's a bit of a different situation in the big cities compared to the smaller cities in this country. So, yeah, if you go to some more impoverished regions, especially of Russia, you know, the smaller cities, towns and villages, then the alcohol consumption goes up because you don't have the same work opportunities in the city, and there's often nothing to do really apart from drink. Sounds quite fun, actually. I think I should go to some smaller regions of Russia and get shit-faced with the locals. It's such a desperate situation in some very rural, impoverished areas of Russia that they're making their own bootleg alcohol as well. And yeah, you quite often hear stories of some dodgy alcohol that ends up killing dozens of people. Now, I tell you what, guys, all this talk of alcohol's made me thirsty. Now, this vodka that I bought is very popular in Ukraine, so I don't know if it's a Ukrainian vodka or a Russian vodka they were drinking there, but anyway, I'm going to have a sip of this. Not bad. Now, I'm normally somebody who likes to mix vodka with juice or something like that, much to the horror of the local Russian people who think you should only drink vodka straight. Now, there's also a rule in Russia that if you're drinking on the streets, the container for your alcohol must be in a bag. So when you go to these alcohol shops, they often ask you if you want a bag, and they give you a stereotypical brown paper bag. And I don't have one here, so I'm technically breaking the law. So guys, I think I deserve this vodka, to be honest. I went to the gym today, so yeah, well and truly deserved. Now, if you want to help Tool Travels buy his next vodka, go to www.buymeavodka.com/tooltravels. Right, everybody, so the next topic on the list is LGBTQ. Okay, guys, so I'm going to be very careful not to promote any LGBTQ propaganda in this country. It started out that there was a ban on LGBT propaganda for children, and now it's a blanket ban, I believe. So everybody, the impression that a lot of people have in the West about Russia is that if you're a queer sort and you come to Russia, you'll get the shit kicked out of you. Wow, guys, I was looking for somewhere to take a cheeky piss, and I've stumbled across a secret outdoor market. But let's not go off topic. Let's talk about queers. Speaking of queers, this looks a bit gay, everybody. So a lot of people in the West have this idea that you cannot be gay in Russia. It's absolutely not tolerated, and maybe gays are hiding in basements here like Jews or something. So yeah, guys, these days it's absolutely not true. Now in St. Petersburg here, it's very liberal, in fact. So when I first came here in 2019, I was shocked. I saw all these kind of LGBT people, and it reminded me of being in Berlin. So chaps, when you come to St. Petersburg for the first time, you might be surprised about how many LGBT people you'll see on the streets here. So yeah, everybody, St. Petersburg is something of a mecca for gays from all over Russia. So if they don't want to maybe leave and live in another country, they want to come here and live in St. Petersburg. As far as I can see, at street level here in Russia, the LGBT community, they have no problems here. But that's just me as a tourist being in the center of the city mostly. But guys, I suppose if you go out into the suburbs of St. Petersburg, it's a bit different. So guys, if you're gay and you're coming to St. Petersburg as a tourist or something, I don't think you're going to have any problems here. As long as you're not provocative or kind of like mincing in the streets. And when I say mincing, I mean kind of gyrating your hips in a provocative manner, or walking as though you're wearing heels, or maybe gyrating on lampposts or something like that. Now I'm sure a lot of you LGBTQ visitors, when they come to St. Petersburg, they're not thinking of gyrating on lampposts, but you know, in summertime you've had a few drinks and you're on the way home, anything's possible. So guys, as I was saying, like Russia's a pretty socially conservative country, so public displays of affection are frowned upon. So and that doesn't matter whether it's between a male and female, male and male, female and female, or whatever. So yeah, this probably comes as common sense, but if you're a gay and you come to St. Petersburg, don't walk around holding hands with your boyfriend or something like that. So yeah, guys, if you're an LGBTQ visitor to Russia, then just act normally, walk down the street like a normal human being, and you're not going to have any problems. Okay guys, let's talk about lesbians. Now, I don't think you're going to have any problems whatsoever as a lesbian in Russia, because let's face it, who's got a problem with lesbians? I know I don't. Guys, I want to wrap up this topic now. I don't know too much about what it's like to be an LGBT person here in Russia, but I suppose that in St. Petersburg there's probably quite a significant, like, semi-underground scene for these people. Wow, look everybody, what a cool bar. Haven't been in here before. What's it called? Oh, mannequin piss again. Ooh, steak, nice. Oh, 50%. 50% on grill until the 15th of February. think I'm going to have to come here. Sneaky buggers probably put the price up by 60% before starting this promotion. So guys, darkness is almost upon us here in the beautiful city of St. Petersburg in Russia. And the last topic I wanted to talk about is friendliness of the people. Now, I was warned before I came to Russia that Russians are unfriendly people. They're unfriendly, rude, and I'm not going to like them at all. But in all honesty, I'm very surprised because I found people in Russia to be rather friendly. Now, I'll give you an example, okay? I arrived back in St. Petersburg on this trip and I went straight to a hotel. Now, I was pretty tired. I had a grueling journey, but I was in quite high spirits because I was back in St. Petersburg. So I arrived at this hotel and the woman in reception, she didn't even look up at me. I said, you know, good evening, my name is LGBTQ Travels, I have a reservation, blah, blah, blah. Barely even looked up at me. So I thought, bloody hell, that's quite rude, you know. But then as I started talking to her more, I started making a few more jokes, started using a little bit of charm. Anyway, slowly but surely, the transformation was amazing. It was like unwrapping the layers of an onion or maybe a Matryoshka doll. So, yeah, she really started to warm up, and then she became very giggly and friendly and also flirty. So I really think it takes time here with the Russian people. Like when you first meet them, they're not like in other countries. They're not warm and friendly at the first meeting. As a good friend of mine once said, Russia and Ukraine is something of a low trust society. They trust their close friends and family, but anybody else, it takes a bit of time. And that's in a stark contrast to some other countries I've been to. For example, in Serbia, like people are very warm and friendly there from the outset. Sometimes people greet me like they're my best friends or something like that. It can come as a shock to me because, you know, most of the last 15 years I've been spending my time in post-Soviet countries where it's not like that. So yeah, I consider Russian people to be friendly, like maybe not from the outset, but in general, you know, I've had mostly good experiences with people here and I've had very, very few bad experiences. Okay everybody, so it's snowing quite heavily and it's pretty cold, so I think I'm going to wrap this video up. So thank you very much for watching. I think I've touched on most of the subjects that I wanted to concerning how people in the West are quite often wrong about Russia. So yeah, see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.